The minutes for the February 24th meeting. Were there any changes to those minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion. Representative Carlin.
I move we approve the minutes of the February 24th meeting.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Representative Sutton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Do we have any bill introductions this morning? Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two bill introductions. The first one is on-the-job training for schools, and it is RS number 21 RS 1722. And the second one is for hiring disabled people at the state level, and it is RS number 21 RS 1720.
All right, committee, you've heard the bill introduction. Second by Representative Owens. All those in favor of the bill introduction say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills are introduced.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
For the bill introductions, Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bill RS 01636. It deals with 911 and the public telecommunications workers as first responders.
All right, committee, you've heard the bill introduction. Is there a second? Second by Representative Sutton. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bills introduced. Any further bill introductions this morning? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and have a bill hearing on Senate Bill 159, which is paying certain claims against the state, submitted by the Joint Committee on Special Claims Against the State. And so I would ask that Merle Riedel with the Research Department give us a bill briefing on Senate Bill 159.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Today I'll be reviewing some of the details with Senate Bill 159, which is the claims against the state bill. So I would reference you to the supplemental note for Senate Bill 159. I'll be going into slightly more detail, but gives a good general reference. So the Joint Committee on Special Claims Against the State recommends payments of claims that total $130,906.08. This includes $27,761 from the state general fund, as outlined in Senate Bill 159. All claims, except fuel tax refunds, would be directed to be paid with existing resource and does not include state general fund expenditures. Just to note, the bill does include 6 standard claims and 20 fuel tax claims that were recommended by the Joint Committee to the 2020 legislature, but were not approved for payment through an act of appropriation due to the early departure of the legislature resulting from COVID-19 pandemic. So these claims were considered by the Joint Committee again during the 2020 interim. They were considered again during the 2020 interim and recommended for payment. So going into details about the claims, you'll see there is a claim for $924 against the Hutchinson Correctional Facility. This is for the Lee File F&W Tractor Company. The company's truck was damaged in a KDOC-owned field by an inmate operating a hay raking equipment. Due to difficulties determining the level of pre-existing damage, the Joint Committee recommended partial payment for 1/3 of the claim, or $924. Next, we have a second claim against the Hutchinson Correctional Facility for $30 for compensation of a Timex watch. The inmate claimed was lost while his property was under the custody of facility staff. Joint Committee recommended full payment of the claim, $30. Next, we have a claim of $20 against the Topeka Correctional Facility. Tamika Pledger sought $254 for compensation of a television, radio, and religious necklace she claimed was damaged or lost while in the custody of the facility staff. The Joint Committee recommended payment for half the estimated value of the religious necklace, which was $20. Next is a claim of $16,426 against KDHE. Peter Shahid operates a home care service in which employee caregivers provide homemaker, companion, and attendant care services to seniors in their homes. On November 2015, Mr. Shahid received correspondence from KDHE instructing him to cease offering attendant care to seniors and obtain home licensure. In 2016, the Attorney General determined such licensure is not required. Mr. Shahid sought $44,772 for legal fees and salaries of a registered nurse. The Joint Committee recommended payment of half the claim, excluding legal fees. Next, we have a claim against the Osawatomie State Hospital. The Joint Committee recommended a total of $1,945. Ellen Schoenfeld stated her vehicle was damaged when a hospital employee backed into it with a state van. Joint Committee recommended full payment of the claim. Next, we have a claim of $2,800 against the Larned State Hospital. Albert Wilcox, a resident of the Larned State Hospital, stated his hearing aids went missing when he was moved to a different room. Joint Committee recommended full payment of the claim amount. Next, we have a claim against the University of Kansas for $1,538. Fiona McGuire, a student at the University of Kansas, stated she fell while descending steps of a campus building, which resulted in injury. While the agency did not admit negligence, it did suggest partial payment as a compromise. Joint Committee recommended partial payment for the cost of medical treatment and local travel. Next, we have a claim against the Attorney General for $10,887. The Barton County Board of Commissioners sought partial reimbursement from the Sexually Violent Predator Expense Fund for cost incurred while prosecuting a sexually violent predator, as provided by KSA 5929A04. The agency did issue partial payment of $8,137 in FY 2020, which expended the balance of the fund and directed the claimant to submit a claim against the state, which is actually a remedy that's provided for in the statute itself, is to go through the Claims Committee. The Joint Committee recommended full payment of that claim of $10,887. Moving on to a claim against the Kansas State Legislature for $1,080. Let Us Feed You, the vendor operating the State House Cafe, sought payment for 216 meal vouchers redeemed by students while serving in the Legislative Page program in FY 2020. The claimant indicated it was unable to request payment from Legislative Administrative Services for vouchers in FY 2020 due to prolonged closure resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, and the funds were not encumbered in the appropriate year. LAS confirmed the validity of the vouchers and supports payment of the claim. Joint Committee recommended full payment. Next, we have a claim of $2,259 against the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. T-Mobile sought payment for GPS surveillance services and call log data that was provided at the direction of KBI to assist in a criminal investigation in FY 2017. The agency confirmed services were provided and supported payment of the claim. Joint Committee recommended full payment. Next, we have a claim of $1,817 against the Adjutant General's Department. Louis Kiefover sought compensation for the repair of damages sustained by his spouse's vehicle when it was struck on the grounds of the State Defense Building in Topeka by an individual operating a van transporting military personnel. Joint Committee recommended full payment of the claim. Finally, we have a claims totaling $91,177 from the Department of Revenue's Motor Vehicle Fuel Tax Refund Fund. The refunds paid by this must be received within 1 year after the date of purchase. If the refund request is submitted after that date, a claim must be filed with the Joint Committee. Refunds are allowed for taxes paid on fuels used for off-highway uses, including school buses and farming. Sir, that completes a quick rundown of the claims that are involved in Senate Bill 159, and I would be happy to stand for questions.
All right, committee, thank you, Merrill, for going through Senate Bill 159. Committee, are there any questions? Representative Wolfmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question on the $16,426 from KDHE, the Home Health Agency one. Could you, that sounds familiar. Was that one of the ones left over from last year that we didn't get done?
So there was, so this was heard in the interim last year, and I would have brought this up in a bill that came before this committee, never made it all the way through the Senate. So you would have heard that last year. There was a similar claim that was filed even in, I believe it was FY 2018, for similar circumstances.
So could you explain this one again for me? Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, so Mr. Shahid filed a claim. He was received, the agency received direction that they needed to take certain steps to achieve home health licensure, and this was at the direction of KDHE, indicating he was outside of compliance with this licensure requirement. Within a year or to 2 years after that, the Attorney General then rendered an opinion on this licensure, and it was determined that the additional requirements were not needed. So the claimant calculated the total costs he felt were involved in complying with this, and that included hiring a nurse for working a full-time period, and several other measures to comply with the licensure. The committee heard this. They made some determinations regarding the hiring of the nurse and felt like not all of the nurse's work was completely involved with compliance in this regulation. So there was some other functions that this nurse was providing. So the committee provided a partial award of the request.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Helgerson.
Can we follow up on that a little bit? And maybe if you have other documentation, you can provide that after the committee. But was this a home under 6 people?
Mr. Chairman, I can't recall that off the top of my head. I can look.
If you could please provide me the additional background information on that one, I'd appreciate it. And were there some claims that were not dealt with last year and not refiled this year? And if so, why were they not refiled?
So, Mr. Chairman, I can address that. So all the claims that were filed and recommended by the Joint Committee during the last interim, all of those claims were renewed. So there were none that were excluded.
Thank you.
Any further questions for research? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Merle. I am not showing any proponents, opponents, or neutral testimony in regards to Senate Bill 159. So at this moment, I'm going to close the hearing on Senate Bill 159 for the claims against the state bill. All right, committee, we're going to go ahead and work the House Bill 2353, which is establishing the Kansas Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial. So we're going to go ahead and open the work on the House Bill 2353. Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you, are you ready for a motion to move it out?
We're working it. We don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion. Okay. Well, is the revisor going to provide or am I? You want me to summarize the bill, or the revisor's not?
Well, you do have an amendment, correct?
Oh, I do have an amendment. Yes, I do.
Right.
Yes. Okay, I'll just explain to the committee. You've all received a copy of the fiscal note from the administration, and it was very high, and it surprised all of us. So we have an amendment to remove members of the state committees state appointments that would cost state salaries. So the amendment would remove 2 state agencies as representatives, the Wildlife and Parks and Department of Commerce, and it would change the administration and responsibility for meeting oversight from the state agencies to the DAR, Kansas Society of Daughters of the American Revolution, and add a representation from a local county economic development corporation or a local chamber of commerce that would be appointed by the Secretary of Commerce. And it adds representatives from the African American Affairs Commission and Hispanic and Latino American Affairs Commission to improve the diversity of the commission. And it clarifies that the commission can recruit contributions from private industry, corporations, individuals, and other gifts. That was the original intent, but this change clarifies that that commission will focus on efforts to earn the funding for this project, and includes the Department of Commerce as a recipient. No, I think we left it. I'm not sure. We were trying to decide whether to move it from Wildlife and Parks to Commerce. My last advice to the reviser was leave it in Wildlife and Parks until an action is actually taken to move tourism to Commerce. That's a summary of the amendment, and I would move that we amend 2353.
All right, thank you for the description, and you've heard the motion to amend. Representative Estes seconds the motion to amend. Any discussion on the amendment? Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a quick question on, it seems like we're taking some off and adding some. And so is that part just fiscally neutral, and then the part that's going to help the fiscal note is bringing in the contributions? Or is there a net loss of salaries or that need to be paid?
Thank you for the question. It's our intent that we make it revenue neutral, in that we are removing any salaried positions from state officials. That's where and it's a 5-year commission, so that built up over time. And these representatives that we're adding are not paid by the state, and there is no pay to anyone who serves on the commission. So we don't have a new fiscal note. I asked Adam Profit for one. He said we have to adopt the amendment before we can get the new fiscal note.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation.
Representative Estes.
I want to speak in favor of the amendment. In 1976, in that lead up, there was federal money that went out to all of the states. And at that time, Kansas received about $258,000. And today that would be $1.1 million. That is not happening this time, but I believe it's feasible. And Kathy sent out on my behalf a document last week. And if you look on the second page of that document, you'll see where Kansas actually was able to raise a lot of money through the sales of commemorative items and medals and fund their project this way. And I think it's very doable this year. I think the committee has a lot of options they can consider, and I think we can make this work.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Carlin, you may move your amendment. Is your microphone on?
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I close on my amendment.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes. Any further discussion on House Bill 2353? Representative Estes.
I'll be really quick. On the first page of the document I sent you, I thought it might be interesting for some of you guys to see the ways that Kansas was highlighted in 1976. The city of Wichita spent over $1 million adding the All-American Indian Center, and that was highly featured in the national report. So that's in the related to the picture that I sent you. But and also, Kansas was the 14th highest state in the nation with the number of events that we had, and I think we could beat that number this time around. But I also think that we're a nation in a time where unity is an issue, and that's a parallel to 1976. And there's a quote from the final report that says, "During a troubled period of our short history, the bicentennial parted a curtain. Behind it, we saw America that still firmly believes in the principles of its founders." And I was a child in 1976, and I remember what a great experience that was, and how it helped me to reconcile the Cuban immigrant side of my family and the side of my family that's been here in America for before we existed as a country, and have a deep appreciation for our country from both lenses.
All right, any further discussion on House Bill 2353? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to pass out House Bill 2353 as amended. Representative Carlin?
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass out House Bill 2353 as amended.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion, second by Representative Ballard. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Bill is passed out of committee. All right, committee, that's really all that we had for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be having a hearing on House Bill 2046, which is increasing the reimbursement rates for providers of home and community-based services. And then actually just kind of give you guys a highlight of how we want to move through the rest of the week. The anticipation is to start working on the state budget tomorrow. As you probably are aware, the Senate is going to be taking up their version of the budget today on the Senate floor. And so we would like to start working on the budget tomorrow and then also on Thursday. So until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we are adjourned.